Welcome to the Building Interest Podcast presented by Leader Bank, a series of free-flowing conversations on a wide range of banking and money-related subjects. We are here to discuss all the issues that impact your financial future. Do you want to buy a home, start a small business, or secure your financial future? Or maybe you want to maximize your savings ability, get your budget in order. We can help. Our talks with experts and influencers across the world of banking will set you in the right direction. I'm your host, Greg Farber. Let's jump right in. Welcome back to the Building Interest Podcast. I'm your host, Greg Farber, and today it is my pleasure to be joined by Mike King, Originator at Leader Bank, and Kristin Buker, Realtor Partner at Keller Williams Realty Showcase Properties. Thank you both for taking the time to be here today.
Thank you.
Thanks,
to be
Greg.
here.
Great to be here.
Mike, always a pleasure to see you again. You've been with Leader Bank for quite some time now, in the residential lending industry even longer. Can you give our listeners some insight into your career, how you got started, and kind of just bring us up to speed what brought you here to where you are today?
Sure. So I started at Leader Bank back in 2009.
I did as well.
And you, the same as you. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
But it was a good year, obviously.
I guess so. Bank's always been growing.
That's right. So I started in the industry back in 1993. So this coming March of 2023 will be 30 years for me, which is pretty mind-boggling.
Wow.
To think that. So I had basically got into the business pretty much out of college. I had a 2-year stint just out of college at the IRS, and I was approached by a family member who was opening an office for a company called Arbor National Mortgage at that time, and asked me if I would be interested in giving that a try. So at the time, I didn't really think the IRS gig was going too far, and I don't think I really wanted it to go too far. So I was open to giving it a shot, and I just said, I'll give this thing a shot, and you're going to have to teach me what a mortgage is. And then that was pretty much it. She trained me and off I went.
Yeah, I had a similar start, came out of college, had no idea what a mortgage was, and ended up working for a mortgage company. So I totally am familiar with what you're describing. Yeah. So what made you choose Leader all those years ago? So
Leader, let's see, it was through 93, and then I worked for a couple different companies. And then 2009, I was at the Needham branch that I'm still at today, with Jim Shanahan and Dave Kurzman as managers. We had worked for a few years at Summit Mortgage, and it was back in the 2008 time when things were getting a little hairy in the mortgage business, and Summit was going out of business. So we had to find a new place to work. We went to First Mariner as a group, First Mariner Bank, which was out of Baltimore, and I think we were there for maybe a year and a half, and that just was not working out. So we kind of went back out, and we shopped ourselves as this branch of underwriters, processors, and successful loan officers, and just needed a place to work. And it was kind of really us going out interviewing companies, and Leader was the one that we chose for a few different reasons.
Nice. That's a great story. So just for the listeners who may not know, you mentioned loan officer, originator. We kind of use those terms interchangeably. What does it mean to be an originator, and what does your day-to-day look like?
So being an originator is essentially, you're a salesperson. You have your own business, even though you are a W-2 employee of the bank and you have 401k and benefits and so forth. But it's a full commission job. It's owning your own business and just managing that day to day. So every day is different. You wake up and, obviously you're always looking at your pipeline of loans and, what commitment dates are coming up, what closing dates are coming up, making sure that's all working correctly. You're just sometimes I liken it to just having a store. Like you show up at your store and customers come in and you deal with them, and sometimes you get more customers than others.
And you're start to finish. You're from the moment they start looking for a loan all the way to the closing.
Oh, absolutely, yes. So that's the part of the dealing with the customer part of it, I guess, is that you take them from a pre-approval all the way through the process. When they find a house, and then take them through the process to get to the closing table.
So Kristin, again,
Yes.
Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Please tell us about yourself and your background as well, and how long you've been in the industry and kind of what makes you tick in your role.
Sure. So I've been in real estate for 15 years. I started in 2007, and then I went to Keller Williams in 2009. So I've been there ever since. I'm from the hotel restaurant business. So I went to Johnson & Wales in Rhode Island and got right into the hotel business and worked in catering, sales, as well as banquet manager. So I did that for many, many years. When I got pregnant with my oldest daughter, Rachel, I said, well, let's just stay home for a little bit, raise the baby. And then I got pregnant with my second daughter, Lauren, and I want to get back to work. As much as I love them very much.
And
but I just
chose
wanted
a whole new industry.
Yeah, I did. I'm like, okay, what can I do now? And one of my neighbors was a real estate agent who actually sold me my house. So I talked to her a little bit and I said, that sounds like fun. So it wasn't even really planned. And I ended up working at a company. They just really hired me. I didn't even have my license yet. I didn't know anything about it. But I went in every day and kind of listened to what they had to say and got my license and just kind of went from there. So I kind of fell into it. But I love it. It's fun.
So much like Mike, you both kind of learned the industry from scratch.
Yeah.
And discovered that it's the right fit for you.
Exactly. Yep.
So what's your favorite part of being at Keller Williams Showcase now?
You know what? I know everybody says this. I love the people, right, Mike?
Yeah,
love the
absolutely.
people. Great group of people. Not just because of, who they are too. I mean, yeah, of course, because of who they are. But, just the collaboration that we have with each other and how we help each other. And it's not like a cutthroat business like some people think that real estate is. I could go to one of my colleagues and say, hey, listen, I have a listing presentation at 123 Main Street, what do you think about this? What do you think about this price? And they're not going to go and run over and try to call the client. I have faith that I just know that's never going to happen. So the people really, and then the training as well. Like we have a lot of high level training. We have a great group of, trusted partners that we work with too, who come in and train as well. So we always are knowing what's going on, in the industry. So those two main things.
It's kind of the same question for you, Mike. I'm just trying to get a feel for things too. You've been doing it a long time. What keeps you passionate and excited about doing this every day and helping, get these loans through? Yeah,
I think for me, it's the challenge of every deal can be somewhat different. And I think I'm somewhat of a problem solver as a part of my personality. So sometimes you get these, the easy deals we love because it's, as as a underwriter, the W-2 pay stub, own one property and bang, it's approved, right? But then you get the self-employeds that come in.
The self-employeds.
They own other properties and so forth and, trying to figure out where their down payment's coming from. And sometimes it's kind of like putting a puzzle together and, figuring out how to turn that challenging situation into a loan that you can get approved.
Nice. Mm-hmm. So now, how long have you both known each other and how did you start working together professionally?
So since 2009, actually. Right. Mike might not know this, but it is. Okay. Because actually Mike was a trusted partner at Keller Williams right when they opened, right? Yep. In 2007, they incubated, right? Yep. So he's been there ever since. And then I joined in 2009 and Mike was there. That's how we met. Yeah.
Worked out well.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's a great story. It's been going for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So given your vast experience and as we mentioned, kind of homegrown and sort of seeing the industry through your own eyes and not through someone else's lens all this time. Sure. I imagine you guys have seen cycles in the housing market and experienced highs and lows in terms of prices and interest rates and housing inventory, all of that. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about how you manage those swings and how you and your buyers and your borrowers can overcome those difficult stages. Maybe, Mike, let's start with you and then Kristin just jump in and share as well.
Sure.
So I guess as far as, managing the swings, when you say swings, you meaning business volume, high to low or... Yeah,
anything that really impacts you, right? I mean, you see on the news that rates are way up, and so you imagine that means there might be fewer borrowers, or you Correct. Hear on the news that there's a housing crunch, there's not enough inventory. Mm-hmm. So how are we, how do you manage your borrowers and your clients through that and make sure that they're able to get what they need?
Okay. Yep. So... lately rates have increased significantly from where they were even at the beginning of the year. So that's created a challenge. I mean, it's taken some people from hoping that they could be in, let's say, the 650 range and drop them down to the 550 range. Yeah. That really, I think, more falls on Kristin because now she's got to change, the market that she's showing people.
Right. And I need to call like the lender, every week, every time you're putting an offer in. Okay, what's the rate? Right. Can they still put an offer in on this price? Like literally, could be even day by day. But
it could be. Yeah, definitely. So if you have someone that's really at the top of what they qualify for and rates jump at a half.
Mm-hmm. all of a sudden they don't qualify anymore.
Right now,
Right.
they have to look at something slightly lower. So, it's really just managing that, making sure that people are aware of what the payment's going to look like. If they still want to stay in that same market, maybe come up with a way for them to maybe put more down, maybe borrow from 401ks, as an example, to try to drop that payment down with more down payment.
So if we see one of these drastic swings, it doesn't mean all of a sudden there's no loans available or there's no houses available. It just means you have to rework setting the expectations with your customers, what they can realistically get and how to get to their goal.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's it.
Yeah.
So taking that into account, how do you see the current state of the market and kind of where things are going in the coming months?
Go ahead.
I mean,
We don't have a crystal ball, unfortunately.
we don't. And if I was here a week ago, it would be different. I've definitely seen a change, like literally in a week.
That quickly?
Yeah.
What changed?
I don't know. Maybe the interest rates. Maybe I think the buyers are just they're not willing to give their kidney away anymore. I keep saying that as an example. Before they were just like putting everything down, waiving everything. Now I think they're just taking a step back, thinking about it, looking at the house, saying, okay, do I want this house? Let me talk to my loan officer. What's it going to cost now? And they really are taking time. The average days till market now is 14, so it's not happening within 3 days. Now, some houses are, of course, and some aren't, right? That's why it's an average of 14. But I think they're really kind of taking their time now and being a little bit more picky than they were before. And they're probably just tired, really.
You see a similar impact on the lending side, Mike?
Absolutely, yeah. So just this week, I've actually had a couple of deals where people have been out there looking for quite a while, and they found properties and had offers accepted, and they actually got them accepted at slightly below the list price, which has been unheard of over the past 2 years.
Right. All we've been hearing is going over market.
Right. So if generally like a year ago, if someone said to me, "Hey, there's a house for $650, and I'm going to offer $630," in my mind, I'd say, "Yeah, right. Good luck."
Right.
But it's actually, I think it's starting to come back now, and I think maybe sellers are realizing that they're not going to get into that bidding war situation every time they put a house in the market. So they. You'd agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really on the realtor to educate their buyers and their sellers. The buyer should have a buyer presentation with their agent and feel comfortable in that person, that they're going to do the right thing for them and they know how to write offers and whatnot. And on the listing side, talk to the sellers about the market changing. There's been a lot of price breaks recently because I think a lot of, sellers feel like, oh, but my neighbor's house sold for X. Well, yeah, but that was like, it sold a month ago, but it also was under contract 3 months prior to that. So it's really not the same market anymore. So it's more of an education to kind of explain to everybody, this is what's really happening. And everybody just kind of understanding it and going with it,
Yeah. I mean, you always hear the phrase history repeats itself. And I feel like borrowers in particular tend to have a short memory. And no one really remembers that, there was a time when we had rates that are higher than they are today, or how recently we had a housing bubble and things like that. Yeah. So you think consumer sentiment is kind of catching up to that a little bit now? Or do you think the average home buyer / borrower kind of still has a different feeling of where things stand than what you just shared?
I think that people know. I think there's enough information out there, and if they're reading the news, and if they're getting ready to buy, I think it's on their radar to get an idea of what rates are at. So
and to that point too, I think going back to what are buyers doing and why has it been like a really quick change in the market, is because I feel like with the media and the news and what they're listening to, the buyers think that the market's going to crash. Like any day now it's going to crash and I'm just going to wait and then I can get this house for really cheap. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. Right. Hopefully the rates will go down a little bit more, right? Yeah. I think that in a lot of buyers' minds, they just think that the market's going to change so quickly that I think they're a little hesitant to write those offers right now because they're waiting to see.
Right.
On Thursday, is it going to be worth $50,000 less? Right.
So what everybody hears is that the market is very volatile, but in reality, you're saying the actual market is more stable than people might think. It's changing.
It's changing, but I think it's kind of leveling out.
Crazy fluctuations.
Yeah, I think it's more leveling out.
Yeah, I'd say more of a. I don't even know if you could use the word correction, but more like a leveling out. Like you said, it's not. There's no crash that seems to be coming down the road.
Right.
in my opinion anyway. So,
and it depends on who you talk to, right? Everybody has their opinions,
right?
Right? You know, but for the most part, most of the people are saying that it's not going to have a huge crash. I think people thinking like maybe 2007, yeah, let's have that again. But I don't necessarily think that's going to happen.
Some other reasons.
Exactly, right? Yeah.
Right.
And I imagine that's part of your job too, is really to make customers aware of how you perceive that, and that this is still a good time to work with you guys and get where they want to be and find that house they want to buy or whatever, and not necessarily panic.
Right.
Well, and one of the examples I like to use, if someone does bring that up, is, okay, well, if you want to talk about 2008, well, maybe you bought a house in 2004, and then what was it worth in 2008, and what is that house worth today?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So long term, it's
still a lot higher.
Yes.
Right. So it did come back and quite a bit over that. So,
and quality of life too. You know, what's your intention with the property? Like, are you planning on living there long term? You know, raising your family or whatever it is. Then buy it now. Why? What are you going to wait for? You know, if that's the perfect house in the perfect area, do it. And if the interest rate's a little higher, not fantastic, but call Mike when it lowers and refi.
Right. You can always refinance. You know, adjustable rate mortgages are becoming more popular now too.
Every client's going to be a little bit different, obviously, but is there kind of a most important thing that you think buyers really need to know when they're entering the market for a new home right now? Is there kind of just a key, this is really where you need to start, keep this in mind, and then we'll go from there?
Yeah, I think they need to be patient, first off.
That's tough these days.
It's very tough.
We're in this now society.
We are, and everything's moving pretty quickly. And I know, again, if we talked a couple weeks ago, everyone was, buyers are writing 20, 30 offers on properties for like a year and a half, and nothing was getting accepted. But that has changed. But still, you still need to be patient, because there are still homes that are in multiple offer situations. And I say this to all of my clients, and they probably don't believe me when I say it, but when they close, they admit that I was right. It always works out. You know, when they find that house and they close on that house, and I say, well, aren't you glad this one didn't work out? Yes, I'm glad this is the house. So it is. And it always does work out, even though it doesn't feel like it when you're in the middle of it.
I can attest to that same sentiment, where when we bought our current house, we looked at a bunch of different places. And yes, this one stood out as the one that we wanted to buy versus the other ones we looked at. Yeah. But looking back, some of the other places, the neighborhoods have changed or things like that. And I'm very pleased that we ended up where we did. And so it was one of those where, sometimes looking back, it is more of a success story than you might think.
Right, right. And the other thing, too, that I think is important is they have to understand that time is of the essence.
Even though they have to be patient.
Even have to be patient. Yep. So like
so hurry, don't hurry.
Exactly, right? Exactly. Because really, if that's the home that you want, and, we need to make sure that Mike's gone over the pre-approval and make sure that the new interest rate matches what they want to pay per month, and they can still get qualified. And at the same time, you got to put that offer in and be available to sign things electronically, answer the phone, and like be available to get the transaction like kind of moving forward.
So you have to be patient to get it right, but then ready to act when the time is right.
Exactly. Okay. Thank you.
I don't know if anybody's a poker player, but it's like you have to be patiently aggressive.
Yes.
Right.
There you go.
That makes sense.
I like that. We'll go with that. Patiently aggressive.
Patiently aggressive.
So now we're talking about what you guys do, but I want to focus a little bit more on you guys versus just the clients themselves. How do you plan to achieve success or to continue being successful in the next few years? And what does success look like for you? What does that mean beyond sort of the obvious, I closed more loans than the month before, or I sold more houses than the year before?
Sure.
Beyond that obvious, what is success for you, and how are you gonna get there or stay there?
For me, success is, at this point in my career, is to continue doing the job that I do, being the trusted advisor to my clients and my referral partners, and, taking pride in what I do. Mm-hmm. And then really just living a good life and being a good parent, and, and enjoying my time and my hobbies and my children and friends and so forth, and being able to balance that. To me, that's true success.
I agree. The freedom. I mean, even more now since COVID happened, I think a lot of people have adjusted their mindset. I mean, especially colleagues that I talk to on a daily basis, life's too short, do your job, do it really well, take care of your clients, take time off, be with your family as much as you can, go on vacations, and, live a great life, because tomorrow's not guaranteed, right?
And I will say, I'll give Leader a plug, because Leader makes it easy to do that, because we've got the app that we have to send out pre-approvals. I'm at the beach, I'm at my son's basketball game, and I'm sending out pre-approval letters because someone sent me a text.
I can attest to that. That is true. I call them like every Saturday, right? Where are you? On the beach? Okay, sorry, but...
Well, I was just going to ask you that. I mean, you guys both work in high demand,
Yes.
time-intensive positions, and you kind of have to be available for the client whenever they need you and not necessarily when you want to be available, right?
True, yes.
And how do you, I mean, obviously you shared the example of being on the beach and using an app to handle a pre-approval, but I mean, how do you balance that work life? I mean, you said success in a lot for you is being there with family and friends and things, and yet work is always there, right?
Always.
How do you balance that?
It's just, I've been doing it for so long now. It's just part of my life. It's like I was thinking about this in the drive-in. I can get a text message from my wife. I can get a text message from an old college buddy, and they get a text message from a customer that needs me to, update their pre-approval. And to me, they're all just text messages. I'm just returning them all. And like the third one, I'm like, okay, hold on, I gotta, pull over or something like that and pull up that app and send that pre-approval out.
So everybody kind of gets equal space in your head, and that way you can share the wealth.
There's definitely times when I just need to shut it out, and when you kind of get to that point, like, okay, maybe it's Friday at 6, and okay, I've had enough. I just need to put the phone away for a bit and just concentrate on living my life. But for the most part, it's never really overwhelming to me.
Right. You make it sound like it's hard work, but also fun.
Yeah, pretty much. It's manageable.
Right.
You're better at it than I am, that's for sure. I'm not managing it.
But you said you had people that would help you out.
Yeah, no, I do. It goes in cycles for me because, again, it is a high demand and things are happening very quickly. So I need to be there for my clients. And so that kind of, I steer that way a lot because I don't want a client to miss out on a property because I wasn't available to them.
Right.
So, it depends on how much business I have going on at the time, where my balance is. So right now I'm really off balance.
Well, in fairness, your business is more of an in-your-face business too.
Yeah.
I'm usually behind a computer or behind a phone.
Right.
And you're like kind of
all
face
over
to
the place.
face.
Yeah, exactly.
Driving
So
around the car.
Yeah, when I have sellers that say, I want to list my house today, got to list the house today. If I have buyers say, hey, this house just came on, I want to go see it. I can't go to the open house on Saturday, and who knows if I'm going to be there on Saturday. I gotta go.
Right.
And that's fine. I'm okay with it because I love doing that. And if I didn't, I wouldn't be in this business. So my balance changes throughout the year. Sometimes it's like, okay, I can do this and I can shut it off at a certain time, and other times I can't. Mike and I were actually talking about this on the way up, that now that it's like lighter out, like at 8:30 at night, I feel like I'm getting a lot more calls now. Like I'm doing more with my clients because it seems like it's only 4:00 in the afternoon. Right. And then I look at my clock. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's
like mentally everybody thinks, oh, it's still the middle of the day.
Exactly,
I can give Kristin a call or whatever.
Exactly.
The workday is still in play.
Yeah,
right?
and I feel like in my head, it's the same thing too. I don't realize it until after I'm off the phone too. But I do try to do as much as I can as having weekends off.
Right.
Just to have a little bit more of that
Set
balance
some time
and be
yourself.
more with my family and do those things. Yeah.
So I kind of want to go back to the beginning, and we talked at the beginning how you've each found your way into your roles, and I kind of ended up in banking the same way, like I said, out of college, and then I spent 20 years in residential lending without really ever consciously choosing to do that as a career path, right? It just sort of happened, and then it grew organically within that, and I'm glad I went down that path. So in parting, and just, is there any, advice for listeners that are looking to maybe get into the industry or those just starting out their career, why this might be a good path for them, for people who are interested in learning more about your roles?
Sure.
For me, I think it's just so great to be able to be entrepreneurial and just make your own schedule and have flexibility. I've always said that's probably my favorite part of being in this type of business.
Your success is up to you.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's sky's the limit. Right. It's how hard you want to work, and just educate yourself and know what you're doing. But also from the personal side of it, just having that flexibility of if you want to take a weekend and go someplace, or when you have kids and you want to go watch them play sports and their dance recitals and so forth. There's never a time you have to say, well, I can't get there because I'm working.
Right. You coach too, right?
I coach. Yeah. I coached, couldn't count how many games I coached between basketball and baseball and football.
So going back to success, you said the sky is the limit. So in these roles, you can work as hard as you want. You can be as successful as you want, whatever that means. Some people's success might mean different things, and you have the chance to sort of forge it your own way.
Yep. Sky's the limit. You have to work for it, though. And I think a lot of people in real estate don't really realize that because they watch HGTV and they think like, oh, I only have to show 3 houses and they're going to pick one and that's going to be it. Or I'm going to do an open house and I'm going to make all this money and that's it. That's not the business, you need to learn the business. You're dealing with people. You're dealing with a lot of money, their livelihood. So you really need to learn the business. And I think some people get into it because of the flexibility, right? But flexibility as far as, if you're sick or if you do want to go on vacation, not like never go to work, right? All week. Yeah. That's not what flexibility really means. But you have to have a passion to help people, I feel like, in this business, especially in, selling real estate. You have to have a passion to help people with a big part of their life.
Buying a house and getting a mortgage are some of the biggest life decisions most people will make during their entire lives.
Right. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, and I would say that just to, like what Kristin said, I did say you'll have the flexibility part, but you do have to be willing to work hard.
Oh, you have to,
especially when you first start out.
Right.
You have to work the weekends, the nights, and put yourself out there, and the benefits will come if you do the right things.
Right.
And you have the flexibility not to work either.
You do,
right?
That's right.
And
you have the flexibility not to be successful if you don't want to be.
Exactly. And
you take too much advantage of that.
Right. And if you take too much, then that's where you're at. You get what you put into it.
Yeah.
Really.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you both so much.
Thank you
for being here and chatting with me today. Any final thoughts? Feel free. And again, thank you so much.
No, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
This was great.
Thanks for having us.
Keller Williams Realty Showcase Properties is not affiliated with or owned by Leader Bank N.A., and all opinions expressed by Kristin Buker are her own and not the opinions of Leader Bank. For additional information on the credit costs and terms of any of the loan types discussed during this episode, including current annual percentage rates, please contact Leader Bank at 1-855-294-4488 to speak to a loan officer. Adjustable rate loans discussed have annual percentage rates that may increase after your loan closes. For more information on today's subject, visit leaderbank.com. In addition to past episodes, you can also find our corresponding blog entries there for more insights. This podcast is a production of Leader Bank N.A., Equal Housing Lender, member FDIC, NMLS number 449250.